It's not a walkthrough, playthrough, review, anything like that. It's just me playing the game badly so you can see what it looks like. Okay then, this is Dynamite Dux on the Pandora's box for S. I've never played it before. I don't know anything about it at all. I will have forgotten the name of the game by the end of the video. So I'm a little duck who, actually looking at him, makes me think of Woody Woodpecker. And why is old Colonel Sanders standing around here? Can I beat him up? No, apparently not. Hurry up. Why? Where? What? Why have these dogs got no legs? That's weird. We've got dogs with heads and maybe bodies or necks. Wow, and big teeth, but no legs. And mooses. Moose? Why? What the hell is going on here? This is a very strange place. I have a bomb. I can now throw lots of bombs and burgers. Oh god. I have no idea. There's a wolf firing a mortar at me. This is a freaky, and it turned into a piece of cake. And I got the mortar. And there are skating wolves. This is the freakiest of freaky games I have ever seen. I want the oh, give her. Just go. Give me that. I don't understand at all. And I don't care. There. Okay, the wolf turned into a burger. Can I get the... Just go away, Moosehead. Cake! Oh. And I lost me weapon. But I got me cake. And what's more important, really? What are they? I'm kind of wary of them. They look dangerous. Oh, it is a thing. It's a water gun. Well, that's just what you need when you're being attacked by this. For goodness sake, what? Who thought of this game? And I need another water gun. Ah, get... This is just mental. I like mental games. They're fun. It doesn't seem like Japanese mental. This seems like... Oh god. Maybe Belgian kind of mental. I don't know. Oh god. What's going on? Can I really beat this? I'm not really sure about that. I seem to be getting clobbered. Can I go past? Can I run away? No, I don't think so. I died. We'll continue, because why not? Hey, there we go. What the bloody hell? Why is that pixel? There's just a pixel on the pavement. It's bothering me. I mean, it's obviously been put there. Why? And that rock, can I pick it up? I want the... Oh, okay. We can throw stones now, but we can't go down there. Danger, hurry up. Okay, what happens if... Oh, bloody hell. What? This is just strange. Kick the dog in the mouth. And... Oh. Eat the cake, get the cake, try not to drown. Get the money. Oh, didn't get the money. Got defeated by water coming out of the pavement. Get the bombs. Throw bombs at mooses. Wow, his head came off his neck. This is just utterly... What the bloody hell? Go back, get the... Can't go back. And now it's... What is going on? Okay, it's wolves with mortars again. And cake. What's that? Is it... It's some kind of missile launcher. Okay. I seem to have dropped me missile launcher. Can I punch the missile? Yes, I can. And it's... God. I've never ever in my life seen anything like this. It's mental. Kick the dog in the head and face off boxing crocodiles. What drugs were they doing when they came up with this game? I just don't have. Okay, it's a rock. It's a big bad rock. And now I've got no weapon. Okay. Can I jump in there? Oh God. Oh, I think I can... No, well, not like that. Push, do that. Ah, did I beat up the little vicious rock? What the... Okay. And we have fallen into another dimension. Or no, we just fell through the planet and came out in Japan. That happens. Yeah, I've had that happen. That's a normal day in workshop. Okay, here's a mole. And here's a pig. My goodness. It's a pig who just farted a dog out of its ass, I think. I just... What's in God's name? Here, have duck boot, pig. Alright. And here's... Babe, get out of there. Andrea has just come home from the gym. So, what is going on? I'm going to be distracted now. I just don't even. I'm talking to the camera.
Oh. Where's it facing?
It's facing that way, at the screen. Say hi to the viewers.
Hi to the viewers.
That is Andrea, my lovely wife. I'm still none the wiser. And I just fell off. Okay, it is game over. That is Dynamite Dux. Hey, what do you know? I remember the name of the game by the end of the video. That is a first this evening. Because you'll have seen several videos over the course of a few weeks where I can't remember what I'm playing by the end of the video. Because that's what happens. I said that last time as well. Okay, I'm going to go now. Thank you for watching. Hello. Today's Q&A question is from pacbilly. Link to his channel down there. He asks, for Q&A, since you brought up music, which actually I did in the last video, so that kind of runs into this one well, I've noticed some great records in your collection on such occasions as they've appeared in your videos. Can you tell us some of your favourite albums? Not greatest hit collections or anthologies, but proper albums. I'm not necessarily asking for a top 10 or anything, you're going to get a bit more than that. Though I am keen to know a bit about why each selection ranks among your favourites. Okay, this is really bloody difficult because I've got a fairly large collection of music. I have shown it in the past. I would link to the videos, but I'm lazy, so no. Mostly CDs. I've got a vinyl collection, it's over there. I pulled out a pile of CDs and 2 vinyl albums because mostly if I've got something on vinyl that I really like, I bought it on CD as well. But I've kept the vinyl because, well, you do, don't you? If you're the kind of person who is inclined to not throw things away. So these are not... It's really hard to pick an order for these. They're kind of grouped together in like for like kind of genre-ish, but not really, and they're kind of in least to most favourite kind of ish, but I mean what is my least and most favourite is entirely dependent on my mood. So it's like the last album in the stack and I will show it you last, I would not say is my all-time favourite album, but it is my favourite album by my favourite artist, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I couldn't actually tell you what is my all-time favourite album, because again, mood. So where the hell do we start? Okay, my taste in music, actual buying albums and records and stuff, started quite embarrassingly with Adam and the Ants. I stand by 2 of the albums and I still think they're good, and they are Dirk Wears White Socks and Kings of the Wild Frontier. They're not in this, but I was just like, being the kind of person I am who gets a little bit obsessive, I did not listen to anything other than Adam and the Ants for quite a long time, and that's really quite sad. And the more I listen to his stuff now, the more I think that's really sad, and the only stuff I think is worth listening to is those first 2 albums, but that's beside the point. So the first album I bought after I realised there was more to music than Adam and the Ants, and where my actual current taste in music started to develop, was this. The Crossing by Big Country. I can't remember what song it was that caught my attention. I mean the 3 singles, In a Big Country, Fields of Fire and Chance. I heard them, I liked them, I bought the album, I love it. And I like the vinyl album better than the CD album. The vinyl album lacks 1 track, a track called Angle Park, which I don't like. It's like I haven't bought this album on CD, because if you're listening to the album, you get used to it, you grow up with an album and you think that's the way it sounds, and then you hear it again and the playlist is different and there's a new song on it and it's inferior, and you're just thinking, well, that's ruined that. So yeah, and there is a track on here that I just really absolutely love, and I am not completely sure how you're meant to pronounce it, but I'm going to call it Porra Man. It's the last album on it, and it's just, it's great. So yeah, I played this to death a lot. The vinyl on this it's a little bit worn. My record player was not great. I had a humongous, great big radiogram. It was the size of a sideboard, literally, not kidding. It was massive. The speaker was that, you can't see that. You're talking a nearly 20-inch speaker, but it was probably about 80 years old. It was ancient. It used valves. It was probably a death trap, but I loved it. So that's my first album. My second, also vinyl, The Damned, Machine Gun Etiquette. Now the thing with The Damned, what was this? This was their 3rd album. Their first 2. Captain Sensible was on bass, and they had a guy whose name I'm now going to completely blank on guitar, who really wasn't all that great at guitar in my opinion. Wish I remember it. Brian James, not the Brian James in Sisters of Mercy, Sieg Sieg Sputnik and all that lot. I think it was Brian James, something like that. Anyway, I didn't rate him. This was the first album they did with Captain Sensible on guitar. And there is not one single Duff song on this. You kind of get used to, with albums, you got 3 or 4 really good songs and then a lot of filler. Or that's the way with pop artists, shall we say, and some less than great other musicians. But this, there is not a single track on here that isn't bloody awesome. But the thing that really, I mean, I'm just looking at it. I've seen them live, and I've seen them perform all of these songs live. Love Song, Machine Gun Etiquette, I Just Can't Be Happy Today, Melody Lee, Antipope, These Hands actually isn't awesome. Plan 9, Channel 7, Noise Noise Noise, Noise 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 live is great. Looking at You live is really great. Liar, Smash It Up, parts 1 and 2. This album is all about smash it up. that is this album encapsulated into one 2-part song, and it is the most joyful punk racket ever. Yeah, I mean, they were a punk band, but they're not really punk. I mean, if there's punk and there's punk. There's like your Sex Pistols punk, which is aggressive and a bit scary. These are fun. These are a really, I mean, they've got attitude, no two ways about it, but it's fun. This is a party punk album, or a punk party album. It's fantastic. I love it. And to my mind, it hasn't aged. If you like guitar pop rock with attitude and fun and everything, the production values on this are great. I think it stands up well today, and I love it. So moving on to the CDs, and the most recent album in this set is Christine and the Queens, and I can never remember the name of the album, Chaleur Humaine, or if we're going to say it with a French accent, Chaleur Humaine, perhaps, I don't know. The names of the songs mean absolutely nothing to me, because most albums, certainly recent ones, sort of back when I was buying vinyl and reading the names of songs, now it's like I just stick the CD in. I don't read any of the notes or anything, or play it online or play a MP3. I don't look. I don't read the details, I just listen. So very often I have no idea what the song's called, can't remember what the name of the album is. Very often I'm listening to a piece of music and I've got no idea who it is. I just heard it once, downloaded it, forget everything about it, but I'm like, oh yes, this song, I like this. Blah. But this album is an album of heartbreak. She was broken-hearted when she wrote this, if what I read in an interview with her or whatever is anything to go by. I first noticed her, she had that one song, Tilted, that I didn't hear it when it was in the charts, was completely oblivious because I don't listen to the radio and I don't watch telly. But I was still living with Andrea, and it was Christmas Day, and we, for the first time in donkey's years, we had a Christmas Day together, and I think we spent most of the day at home, I think, yeah, where we didn't go out and spend it with family. I think I'm remembering that right. Anyway, we watched Christmas Top of the Pops, and they played Tilted, and for the first time in a long time, there was a song on the telly, contemporary music, that I thought, that's fantastic. And so I bought the album, and Tilted doesn't really represent the rest of what this album is. Tilted is a really clever song that it kind of, in a way, it's a promo song to promote that dance. That dance is fascinating. But the rest of the album, pure broken heart, and in such a beautiful way. It's mesmerising. This makes me cry. I don't listen to this very often because I can't listen to it and not cry. And in a sense, this is the soundtrack of the collapse of my own marriage. My marriage was starting, the cracks were showing, things were getting pretty ropey when I got this, and it all kind of progressed, and this was the soundtrack to it. So I find it very difficult to listen to, but it's beautiful. It is just one of the most beautiful most beautiful albums I've ever heard. It's great. Going back a long way now. Hey, we've still got no, that's not a price sticker. Unforgettable Fire by U2. It was the first album by them that I bought. It wasn't the first time I heard them. The first time I heard U2 was, oh God, New Year's Day. I heard New Year's Day, but I thought it was Ultravox. And for quite a while I thought New Year's Day was by Ultravox. I have no idea. I suppose that a certain feel of it, the pianos and stuff, was sort of reminiscent of Vienna. But yeah, so I spent quite a while oblivious to who U2 were. And then I saw an advert on telly, just a very short clip, advertising this album. And were they even advertising the album or just the single, Pride? Which I didn't hear on the radio. I heard it on the telly in that ad, and I was like, that's great. Bought the single, I think. Bought the album, love it, and it's still my favourite. It's the for the most part when he's singing, it's all fragments of images and ideas, and there isn't really a, what's the word I'm looking for? Can't think of it. I'll remember in a little while and come out of it completely out of context, and you'll be thinking, what the hell? Narrative. That's the word. There isn't really a narrative in a lot of the songs. They're just visual images that pop into your head as he sings the lyrics, or it seems that way to me anyway. And I mean, the song that really does that for me is The Unforgettable Fire. I'm tripping over my teeth today. I just love it, and I saw them do this live at Milton Keynes Bowl in 1985, and that just kind of cemented it in my memory. And I love the colour. Something about the black and white photo, Slane Castle, with this sort of crimson, scarlet, whatever. It's not scarlet, is it? Crimson-ish. Whatever, this funny red colour. When I hear this album, it feels that colour. Synesthesia? Don't know. Probably not. Probably just my brain linking that colour with that sound. Okay, next album, Simple Minds. This is not the cover of the album. This is a box set of 5 of their albums. Interestingly, it doesn't have Empires and Dance, but I'm okay with that because I don't particularly like that. Suns and Fascination, Sister Feelings Call. I think that was actually 2 albums. Were they on tape or vinyl or whatever, and they came as 2, but then was that a double album? Don't know. I had it on tape actually, and it was both of them on one tape, and one side was called Suns and Fascination and the other side was called Sister Feelings Call. But as on a CD, when you look at the actual listing of what the CDs are called, this is just called Suns and Fascination. It is Simple Minds when they had started making what you could call proper music, but before they had got really slick at it. They hadn't got polished. They hadn't moved into stadiums. They were still doing stuff that was a bit weird, and I like it. And they've kind of gone back to that now. They've done some recent albums, and I haven't got them, and I don't know what they're called. They did like they did a recent one that was it an unplugged of their earlier stuff, or was it of all of their stuff? And that was kind of good. But they've done something else where their modern stuff sounds quite like this, but Simple Minds now aren't the Simple Minds that you get here. It's like there's Jim Kerr and what's-his-face on the guitar, whose name I don't think I ever knew, and a bunch of other people. Meh. But this I love. And the specific songs, Boys from Brazil, Love Song. I can think of several songs called Love Song that I really, really, really like. This is one of them. Love Song by The Damned is another. Love Song by The Cure is another. It's just like if there's a song called Love Song, it might be good. Yeah. The American, that's another really good one. Brilliant. I mean, in this set, you've got Suns and Fascination, as I just showed you. New Gold Dream, they were going a bit stadium-esque. Sparkle in the Rain, very stadium-esque. Once Upon a Time, oh my god, so stadium. And then Street Fighting Years. Pfft. That was them trying to be grown up, when really all they were was just bloody boring. They had been listening to too much U2 when U2 were doing Rattle and Hum. Don't like that album at all. I don't play it. Okay, going back to about the same time as I was buying Big Country, but I'd sort of heard this a fair bit before. Genesis, by Genesis. I mean, is the album even called Genesis? To me, it's the one with the coloured bricks, the yellow bricks on it. I love the old plastic ball that you used to get, and you'd put those through the holes. Yeah, this is another of those. There is not a bad song on it, and I love it. And part of it is nostalgia, because it doesn't really fit with a lot of the kind of stuff that I listen to. And they haven't done another album where I really need the whole album. There are little bits before this, and I can hear the lyric, but I can't remember the name of the song. I could show you some of the people in my life, and I can't remember the name of the song. So it's like the album before this I quite like, and there are 2 songs by Genesis from Peter Gabriel era that I like. There's The Knife, which is just scary, and another song, something, I Know What I Like. I think that's what it's called. I Know What I Like. I like that song. But mostly this, and everything that came after this, I hear it and it's just a bit cringe inducing. But this album, they peaked. They hit a point that to me was perfect Genesis, which makes it a very well named album for me. Difficult one now. The Police. I'm picking Regatta de Blanc. Terrible use of no accent. I'm not sure how you should say it. Whatever. I know it's French. Doesn't matter. It's kind of... What does that mean? It means white reggae, doesn't it? I believe. Which is kind of what it is. They still had that reggae thing going on with this. And I think the Police are at their best, or were at their best, when they were still... Their music was like new wave reggae. They still played on the offbeat, or played off the beat, whatever. Their last album, Synchronicity, basically Sting had taken over and the rest of the band were just his session musicians, and that album sucks. Especially Every Breath You Take. Do not like at all. I don't care that it was their most successful single ever. Don't like it. Shite. This, Message in a Bottle, fantastic. Walking on the Moon, fantastic. What other singles were on this? Can't remember. But it's that I'm looking at this and trying to work out which other ones were singles on it. I'm not sure there were any others. Yeah, but the first 3 albums to me are the best. Outlanders d'Amour, Regatta de Blanc, Zenyatta Mondata, fantastic. By the time they got to Ghost in the Machine, Sting was taking over a bit, but I still like that one fairly. But I think this is my favourite, though their best single is probably still Roxanne, which is on the first album. Roxanne is just glorious. So that one is a difficult choice. Now, this does not represent my typical taste in music. But you know, excuse me, every once in a while, you just want to be really bloody noisy and bugger the neighbours, not literally. Something without... I mean, I've got a lot of really noisy stuff, and we'll get to some of that in a bit, but it's got an edge. It's edgy, got a certain anger to it. This isn't angry. This is fun, noisy, in your face. You'll understand. ACDC's Back in Black. You see, for a long while, it was... I had 2 albums from that era that were very, very similar, or sat in the same mental box for me. It was this and Motorhead's Ace of Spades. But With the Motorhead album, I found that Ace of Spades is a fantastic, utterly bloody amazing single, but the rest of the album I didn't really enjoy listening to all that much. This, there is not a Duff song on it. Back in Black, the title track, is the best by a long mile, but there is nothing on here that doesn't want to make you stomp about with a bloody great big grin on your face. And it is, that's what this is for me. I've had a couple of drinks, there's no one around in there. I don't make a noise in this place, but say, if I'm in such a place as I can make a noise, this is the one for being loud and leery and let's have a laugh and probably get pissed. Now, sort of a similar vein, I'm going to be just careful where I place my fingers because YouTube, I'm not showing boobage because there is boobage on this cover. The Pixies, Surfer Rosa. It is another noisy album. I like the Pixies. They've done quite a few albums. I missed seeing them live. I so nearly saw them. I did see the Throwing Muses, who they toured with in 88. But this, was this their? I think this was their first album, and it's great, and it's got my favourite Pixies single on it, which is Bone Machine. But the thing with this is Black Francis, his scream. He does this shrieking scream, and it's never better than on this. So I mean, favourite Pixies albums, this is the absolute pinnacle of Pixies. But then Trompe le Monde, which was their last one, I think, before they retired and then made a comeback, because Indie Cindy, which was like their comeback album, I think, is also great, but it hasn't got Kim Deal, so it's not really proper full-on Pixies. She added a certain element that is lacking in that album. This is them perfect, pure Pixies. And Bone Machine is as good as it gets. That's just an epic, epic song, and why it wasn't like #1, world #1 for the whole of 1980, whatever year it was, I don't know, because it's an incredibly good song. And fun. Okay, shifting into something that is... we're getting darker now. Depeche Mode, Violator. There are several bands for me who I liked them over a period of time, and they kind of fluctuated. They were good, they were bad, but then they peaked, and they peaked at around the same time. And I'm just going to, whereabouts, yeah, I'm going to switch this around because the album that comes after it needs to go with it, really. This, to me, was and still is peak Depeche Mode. They hit a kind of velvety sound. The colour of that rose, but in velvet, is how this album sounds to my synesthesia-riddled brain. And a favourite song, I mean, most people you say, what's your favourite song on Violator? And they'll say, Enjoy the Silence. Well, I won't say that, because my favourite song on here is Policy of Truth. I think that is a... it hits a spot. It is really, really, really... It's got a hook or something. It just... I think I know what it is. Asperger's being a thing that I am really more familiar with than I would like to be. I find it very, very difficult to not be completely honest about absolutely everything. And so Policy of Truth kind of strikes chords with me. Say what you mean what you say. And maybe that's not what they're singing about at all, but it's just how I interpret it. So the other album that a good band who were always good and had like peaks and troughs and whatnot, but then hit absolute peak and have also never been as good since, and did it at about the same time, The Cure, Disintegration. This album, for me, is all about 1980, I think it was 8, maybe early 89, summer. I'd been to a party. No, I'd had a party. Had I been to it? It was either at my place or it was at Andy Callahan. We'll use his name. There are many Andy Callahans out there. You've no idea which one I'm talking about. Andy, if you're still alive and haven't had some mishap, hi, I miss you. This album, we'd had a party, and then we went down the next day, all completely hungover, with I had a ghetto blaster thingy, and we must have been playing it on tape. And we took the ghetto blaster and a crate of cherry coke. I don't know why we had a crate of cherry coke, but we went down to the river in Stony Stratford and just laid on the grass, listening to this on repeat, trying to feel less like death warmed over, trying to enjoy the sunshine because it was really sunny. And it was great, though we felt terrible, though we were all kind of, I suppose you would call us incels. It was that involuntary celibate. We were a bunch of geeks with gothic tendencies who couldn't get a girlfriend to save our lives, even though there was actually a group of girls who were showing an interest, but we were too stupid to do anything about it. Hi Trish, miss you. Yeah, this is that day. And for me, the best song on here, so many people would say Love Song. Was it Love Song? I'm looking. Lullaby. Yes, it's Lullaby. That's the one that's on here. Everyone, you talk about this album, they're like, Lullaby. Me? No. Pictures of You. Pictures of You. That one spoke to me. That was mourning the loss of a girlfriend I'd never had. Sad. But that was me in '88. After that, Psycho Candy. Jesus and Mary Chain. They've done a fair bit since this. This was their first album. This is their most... Bobby Gillespie, I think, was still with them when they did this. He's been... Well, I saw him on... I didn't see the programme. I've seen tiny little clips of it with the bloody Tory twat presenters and Tory twat guests dancing around being twats, and he's sitting there looking at them like, what the fuck? I don't know how why he was on a political show, but anyway, Hero. Yeah. So this, it was a friend recommended it to me on CB Radio. Hi Trina, miss you. None of these people are ever going to see this. Yeah. They still had feedback when they did this. They weren't especially good musicians. You can't make out half of what they're singing because it's like just buried in echo and reverb and feedback, and it's fantastic. It's noise. It's just a beautiful cacophonous noise, and I love it. I saw them live in 1989 at Brixton Academy. Scary place in the middle of the night, Brixton, at that time. I don't know what it's like now, but then, whew, yeah. But most of the show, I mean, they were slick by that time. They knew what they were doing. Their production values were good. The sound management was good. And the thing about that gig that really, really sticks in my mind was they did Sidewalking, and it lasted what seemed like about 20 minutes. And Sidewalking is the best single they ever did, and it's not on an album, it's not on a studio album, it's on a compilation album called Barbed Wire Kisses, I think. And I'm not even sure that that's the best version, but it's a
fantastic song. John Peel, it's one of those rare songs that John Peel, he played it, liked it so much he just played it again straight away. It's just great. But it's not on an album. Meh. Okay, this song for me says, was it 1985? But I think it was 1986 that I got into it. Susie and the Banshees, Tinderbox. It's probably not their best album, and I'm trying to remember the name of the one that is the best album, and I can't think of it. But this one, sort of, it was the first Susie and the Banshees album I bought, and played and played and played and played and played. I was like, this is something new. This is a new sound for me. I've been aware of them for years, but goth was an alien thing for me, or to me, for quite a long while. I didn't understand what it was or whatever until I really started listening to goth music and realised this is what I want. This music speaks to me in a language that I kind of understand a bit, and the Image, I love the Image. Yeah. So, I mean, singles on here, Candyman was like the main single that people, if you mention this album, they'll say Candyman. But for me, Cities in Dust, just the best. But, I mean, best single on here, I'm not sure. Possibly, did I say single? I mean track. I think it might be Land's End. I love Land's End. Actually, again, there are no bad tracks on this. 92 Degrees is fascinating. Yeah, it's just got a sound that they... Again, I think they reached peak Banshees with this. After this, Through the Looking Glass is an interesting album, and then they did Peekaboo, which I thought was god-awful. And then I stopped buying their stuff. I know they did a couple of, 1 or 2 albums after that. I didn't even buy them. To me, they were like, this was peak Banshees. Remaining in the goth kind of realm, though they weren't a goth band, but if you're a goth, you'll like it. It is not the iconic album, Joy Division. The iconic one with it's an iconic cover, and it was the groundbreaking album, was Unknown Pleasures, you know, the one with that funny sample thing. That is a fantastic t-shirt to wear, and people are like, yeah, Unknown Pleasures, great. But to listen to, this to me is the better album, Closer. And this, it's that same year, in the same field, down by the river, only where Disintegration was in the daytime, in the middle of summer, we were in a derelict, burned out mill in the middle of the night. I think it was still summer. It was tolerably warm. This time we had that group of girls with us who I'd mentioned previously. And we were playing this on repeat. And it sticks in my memory. I hear that there's a certain track on here, and I can't even remember the name of it, but it's the one with lots of synths, where a lot of this is sort of guitar based, and Peter Hook's bass line is all about with Joy Division, though not so much as, say, New Order, who came later. But there's one with all these synths, and that to me is like that field, the mill field, and it was just a little bit misty and full moon, middle of the night, epic. And this and that night go together perfectly. Next, this is a box set, Bauhaus. It's got 5 albums in it. One of them is a compilation, meh. Interestingly, I mean, if you were to say to me, if I could only play one Bauhaus CD, it actually would be a compilation, but since we're not having compilations here, I struggle to pick the best album, the best studio album. I'll name the compilation. It's Bauhaus 79 to 83. It's a double, there's a black one and a white one. I can't decide which is the better. I kind of just take the two together. Their last 2 albums I really, really, really like. Their early stuff is kind of difficult, and they gradually got better. And then the last album, Burning from the Inside, Pete Murphy, the singer, was barely on it because he was ill, but they'd already booked the studio time. And it was like, well, we've paid for this, so sod it, we're going to go and record the album anyway, and sorry Pete if you're ill, tough shit. And Daniel Ash did most of the vocals on this. Pete Murphy's barely in it. And it's a great album, and it's kind of a precursor to Love and Rockets. Though later Love and Rockets is nothing like Bauhaus, and I really like the last Love and Rockets album. But also like more traditional Bauhaus on here, The Sky's Gone Out. I'll show you that I've got the so you know what to look for if you decide I'd like to hear those albums. That is The Sky's Gone Out. It's a great cover. This is Burning from the Inside. It's a fantastic cover. I love that. I think that's one of the best album covers ever, in my humble opinion. So yeah, if I was to say best Bauhaus album, it's one of those two, but I just can't decide which. I do like their more recent album, and it's probably a decade ago that they did it, but it was like whoever thought Bauhaus would reform, and they did, and they made an album, and they had an absolute nightmare in the studio because Pete Murphy was drugged out of his face and being a twat. But they made a good album, and that is called Go Away White. And it's like, it's different to everything they did before, but you can listen to it and you know it's Bauhaus, and it's good. And that's kind of what you want, because, you know, after a couple of decades and whatever, however long it was, you would expect them to be different, and they are, but you know who you're listening to. But anyway, moving on, still in the realms of goth, very, very goth. I struggle now. Sisters of Mercy. I'm going with Floodland. But I'm really, really torn between Floodland, First and Last and Always, and really their earlier stuff, pre-Wayne Hussey. They did a whole series of EPs. Now, if they had made a proper official album from that era, and there's a bootleg that I've got on vinyl called Enter the Sisters, I would say that Temple of Love type era. Temple of Love is a fantastic single, and I'm kind of torn between the original Temple of Love and then the remake with Ofra Hazar on vocals, because I prefer the guitar and the power and the energy and the rawness of original Temple of Love, but Ofra Hazar's vocal is awesome. If they could combine those two, that would just be beautiful. But whatever. I'm going to go with Floodland, because there isn't a bad song on it. There isn't really a bad song on First and Last and Always, but this is sort of the it's purer, I think. I don't know. I mean, it kind of doesn't make sense in that it's not really a band, is it? It's Andrew Eldritch, some session musicians, Patricia Murphy. Was she even playing on this? She was there because she looked good. She didn't get paid for it. He ripped her off royally, and then she went off and married Dave Banyan. Good for her. It's just a fantastic album. Favourite song on it? Probably This Corrosion. I think so. I love Dominion. I love Lucretia. Also, I mean, the album that I think of as going with this, it's like the precursor to it. It was the album that stopped the Mission calling themselves the Sisterhood, is the album by the Sisterhood, which is Andrew Eldritch, though he doesn't even sing on it, called Gift. That's a really good album. It's the best Andrew Eldritch album that doesn't have Andrew Eldritch on it. Figure that one out. Great album. Okay, now we're getting serious, and really, really difficult choice. 9 Inch Nails, The Fragile. choosing my favourite Nine Inch Nails album is difficult because there is a period of I love almost all of his stuff. The only album of his that I absolutely do not like any part of is called The Slip. I don't know if he did a hard copy of it. I just got he made it available for free as a download, I think because he realised it was shit. So it's like, I've done this studio album, I couldn't possibly ask for money, here, have it for nothing if you want it. It's shit. I'm also not a great fan of Pretty Hate Machine. I bought it when it came out. I never would have even heard of Nine Inch Nails if it wasn't for the girlfriend I was with at the time, who worked in a record shop. And she had a customer come in and said, have you got any Nine Inch Nails? And she was like, no, because they weren't that kind of record shop. But then she sort of found out what they were and played some, or bought. Did she buy the art? I don't know. But at some point we realised this is actually shit hot. We got, and now I've blanked on what it's called, that first album, Pretty Hate Machine, and it was, at the time, it was like, wow, this is really cool. But then he did Broken and Fixed EPs, and we were like, oh my, this is something different. And then he did the Downward Spiral, and really hit his stride, and that's where my favourite era starts. The Downward Spiral, Further Down the Spiral, The Fragile, and Things Falling Apart. They're my favourite. Those four go together in my head. Everything that came after, good, except The Slip, which is shite. And they've been kind of patchy. I say they, really it's he, Trent Reznor. But this double album, it's just really pure, the kind of Nine Inch Nails noise that I really like. And there is a song on it, and La Mer. I think that's the one, La Mer. It is a song that I had a girlfriend once who had a really good stereo, and you could make it go really, really, really loud and it wouldn't distort, and it had really good bass. So it was kind of like having a PA system. And it was in a room that was no bigger than this room that I'm in. Poor neighbours. And if you put this song on, and I hope that is the name of the song, I hope I've got the right one, I might be wrong. Might be Just Like You Imagined, actually. I think it is. I think it's Just Like You Imagined, track 7. You turn that up really bloody loud on a really good stereo, stand in front of the speakers, and it doesn't, but it feels like it's going to knock you over. It is the most powerful piece of music I know in terms of wall of sound, but really focused, really well defined, really just, it's like being hit with a sonic bulldozer, and it's fantastic. And that's all I've got to say about that album. Next, completely different, just in a different universe, for a different variant, never mind a different mood, it's for a different existence entirely. This Mortal Coil, Filigree and Shadow. There are 2 albums that go together by this band. There's this, and there's an album called Blood. They're different, but they're similar. Same band, different singers. Because really it was just a 4AD producer, and I think it actually might be the vocalist with Dead Can Dance. Certainly that guy appears on these albums, I think. Sounds like him anyway. This Mortal Coil is like 4AD supergroup. The producer guy just gets together all of the best people around at the time on the 4AD label and makes these albums that are beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I can't describe them better than that. They're otherworldly. There's nothing else that sounds like them. They're good to sleep to. Music that I can sleep, and that's not like, oh my god, it's so boring, I went to sleep. It's music that puts you into a different place. It takes you somewhere. It's a dreamland kind of place. It just can't explain. But it's great, and albums and bands like that are few and far between. A favourite song, I really couldn't tell you. No, I could not tell you a favourite song on here. And it's full of, some of it, sometimes there are just little bits, there'll be a track that's like maybe 30 seconds long, and it's just a piece of drum or something. It's great. Look it up, play it, find it on YouTube, have a listen. It's really good. Now, okay, this next band, I'm going with 3 albums because I cannot pick one. I don't know if these all went exactly in a row as they were released, but I put them together, though 2 are more similar than the last one. It is The Fall. Marquis Smith, rest in peace, died this year. Gutted. The loss of him and Bowie means of musical heroes of mine, there are very few left who are still making music. 2. The rest have died, and that's sad. So, The Fall. This Nation's Saving Grace. The Fall. The Wonderful and Frightening World of the Fall. These 2 are what I consider peak Brix. And if you know The Fall, you'll know what I mean. Brix is influence. Brix Smith. She's now in a band called Brix and the Extricated, who started off doing old Fall songs that she wrote, or they wrote, as opposed to Marquis Smith songs. These have her fingerprints all over them, and they are fantastic. And then there's this, which is the first album, Ben Sinister. It's the first Fall album. I'd never heard of The Fall before this, and I can remember exactly where I was when I heard the first Fall song I ever heard, and where I was when I was. It was 1980, I'm guessing 5. I was with my dad in his car. He had just got a Ford Capri Mark II 2-litre GT. Actually, it was originally a 1.8S, but he stuck a 2-litre GT engine in it because he blew up the engine of the 1.8. Yeah, so he'd just dropped the engine in it, and he was testing it, and he took it on the A5D. I was with him. He took it up to 100 mile an hour, which was the first and probably only time I've ever been 100 mile an hour in a car, and probably doing that in a Capri that was as clapped out as that one wasn't a good idea. But he got the radio on, and it was Janice Long, I think, and she played US 80s, 90s. And I was like, holy crap, this is really, really good. I really like this. I'd heard of The Fall, I think. I think maybe I'd seen the name or heard John Peel mention them, The Mighty Fall, but I didn't hear the music. So I was aware of them as existing. Possibly a CB friend of mine. Yes, I had a friend on CB called... What the bloody hell was her handle? Okay, now I'm going to blank on her name as well. Whatever. She lived in Rhode. Oh, that's going to annoy me now. I liked her. Anyway, she mentioned The Fall, and so anyway, I heard US 80s, 90s, and I was like, I've got to get some of that. Went out, bought the album on vinyl, still got it, and was like, this is great, this is really, really good. Never heard anything like it. You will never hear a band like The Fall. They are unique. Some might say that's a good thing. Marquis Smith and The Fall are an acquired taste, most definitely, because Cacophony Actually, I mean, but by the time they were doing these albums, you had musicians who knew how to play. Some of their stuff, you kind of had to wonder, can these people play? But that was the appeal. In the same way that I played badly. They played badly, and Mark E. Smith could never sing. But it didn't matter, because that wasn't what he was about. Yeah, really good. So, for a long time, I would have said this was my all-time favourite album. Gary Numan's Berserker. This was the point where I got into alternative music. I hadn't quite hit goth yet, but I realised that most of your mainstream pop was shite. It was 1984. We'd had some really, really good music in the charts. You know, you'd had Tears for Fears, you'd had Depeche Mode. Synth pop was a thing, and it was great, and I loved it. Like that still had that cold, futurist kind of dark feel to it. OMD, all that kind of thing. And then Gary Numan, and it was like, okay, Cars, Our Friends Electric kind of thing. And I liked it. I never bought any of it because I didn't understand it. And then in 1984, he did Berserker. He got this blue and white look that I was just like, wow. So I thought, well, I've got to dip my toe in here. I wanted to explore music a bit. I wanted something that was a little bit unusual, and this seemed like the most unusual thing that was in the charts at the time. So I bought the album and I played it to death. Utterly. It was on repeat over and over and over for months, years, don't know. This was like my musical Blade Runner, where I watched Blade Runner over 1,000 times because I watched it every single day for 3 years. This was the album equivalent. I suppose I have played it to death now that I don't listen to it a lot anymore, but I still love it when I do play it. It still takes me to that place that this took me. Favourite song on it? Hard to say really. I think Cold Warning. It's got a kind of mechanical, threatening feel to it, which is kind of good given that Cold Warning just pretty much exactly describes that really. I really like this. I think it was the last time he really was doing what it was he started out doing, a futurist synth rock. After this he did The Fury. The problem is, after this he got involved with Bill Sharp of Shack Attack and started messing around with MIDI and doing MIDI synth based sequenced pop, and it got pretty awful. Certainly while he was doing stuff with Bill Sharp and other bands. He did an album called Automatic, which is so terrible, it's unbelievable. But, you know, he went through this sort of dance, I suppose I would call it techno-funk. Yeah, with elements of jazz, techno-jazz funk perhaps. It was not great. He would do an album, he did an album like every year, and you'd have like 2 really good songs on it, or maybe 1 fantastic song, and a lot of stuff that was just a bit cringe-worthy. And there was always the ballad. It was like the obligatory ballad. Ugh. But then he did Sacrifice. It was like he met his now wife, and she was like, what the hell are you doing? Get back to doing what you're good at. Dark, moody, doom-laden paranoia. Get rid of the female backing vocalists. Do what you're good at. And he did. And he found his way again. Though, I mean, there's been a long stretch of him really just parodying Nine Inch Nails. And while I kind of like it, it's not very original. But his last album, he's got past the Nine Inch Nails and got back into... I suppose he's back to being himself. But I don't know... He's forgotten how to carry a tune. He's got great production, great rhythms, great feel and atmosphere, but he's not carrying a tune anywhere in that. Nothing that you could remember. That's the problem. His songs currently sound good, but they're not memorable, and that's a shame. But this, that's the last time before his rejuvenation, if you like, where he was really who I think he started out as. So now we get to the last two albums. Most of you know who my favourite musical artist is. I am torn over which of these is my favourite album, so I'm going to show you both of them. David Bowie, Outside, and The Next Day. I am kind of unfashionable in the Bowie era that I like the most. You say Bowie to most people and you'll get two camps. It's the people who really like Let's Dance. It was his most popular, it was his most commercially successful. He had 3 really good singles, and a lot of people really liked that stuff. But the albums, Let's Dance is a shit album. Sorry it is. Fantastic singles, but that album sucks. And so did the 2 that came after it. So like Loving the Alien, and then Never Let Me Down. Well, that was just one great big letdown from start to finish. That album is fucking appalling. Excuse my French. So you got the ones who like Let's Dance, and then you've got the ones who like Ziggy Stardust. And I'm like, no. Of the Ziggy era, my favourite would be Diamond Dogs. And I mean, I like the Berlin stuff. And then after that, I didn't really start liking Bowie until Tin Machine. But I don't really think he didn't start doing something I felt comfortable with until Black Tie White Noise. And then everything after Black Tie White Noise, and this is all the stuff that's considered unfashionable, past it, you know, his glory years have gone, golden years if you will, had passed, and he was just treading water, people say, is my favourite stuff. And these two are the pinnacle of it. Outside, he was clearly influenced by 9 Inch Nails. This is industrial art, industrial techno art. It's a concept album. There is a narrative in this. It's whether or not you can follow it or want to follow it is neither here nor there. I love this. It is gritty. I mean, it is all about an artist or group of artists who commit murder as art. That's what this is. And I think that as a concept, fascinating. Obviously not a good idea in real life, but I can see there are some completely warped psychopaths who might actually think that's, you know, yeah, murder as art. It's a fantastic album. Favourite song on it? Well, Hello Space Boy. I remember seeing him, I'd heard the song, and then I saw him do it on, was it Top of the Pops? And he got the Pet Shop Boys doing backing vocals, and they'd remixed it, and he was there dressed as a priest in high heels, stilettos at that, and it's like, holy cow. I don't know how he's getting away with that, but it looked bloody awesome, with this funny microphone stand thing that was just, yeah, that was incredible. Love that, and Heart's Filthy Lesson, and there's a version of that he did with 9 Inch Nails, which is also awesome. In terms of artistically, something really challenging, this is my favourite Bowie album. It's probably the most satisfying, the one where I'll be like, it blows me away. But that, The Next Day, something about this is where Outside is Bowie doing art, this is Bowie being Bowie. This is probably as near to him being him, sounding like who I think he is, as you can get. Him as a beyond middle age, getting into old age. You know, this was like 3 years before he died. He came out of the blue, like he hadn't done anything in 10 years, having had a heart attack while he was touring Reality. And he just came out of the blue with, what's it called? Was it called The Next Day? Was that, no, what's... I know the first line is Where Are We Now? Was that the title of the... Where Are We Now is the single. And I don't like that. That is actually the only song on here I don't like. Every other track on it is incredible. But there's a track on it, and I'm looking for the title of it, because I don't care about the titles. Love is Lost. There is a line, just a lyric. What have you done? The way he sings it, it's... There's something about the quality of the vocal and the delivery of that line. It's like, what have you done? As in something catastrophic. No coming back from that. I don't know what he's talking about when he sings that, but I love that song and this album. And though it's like Black Star, what an album to go out on. I can't listen to that album tearing up talking about it. You know, they released that album and he died 3 days later. And I can't listen to it because the two are tied together. So I listen to this. I've got to edit now. There we go. Emotional Benway. So yeah, that... It's weird. Bowie is my favourite artist. This is my favourite Bowie album. It's not my favourite album of all time, but I actually don't know what is. That depends on the mood I'm on at the mood I'm in at the time. But yes, those are my favourite albums. There are others that I've almost certainly would have liked to have added to it, but then I could go on all night because I like a lot of music. My taste is... It's not... But some of that is mainstream. It's like some of that lots and lots and lots of people will have heard. There'll be like #1 hit singles in there, and some of it a lot of people will never... might have heard of but won't have heard. And some of it's a lot of people absolutely would not like. I do have a tendency towards the gothic, the dark, the bleak, the alienated... Yeah, 'cause that's my life, or it's how it feels. I think from the outside it doesn't look like that. I think from the outside it just looks kind of sad, but that's what my life feels like. That music sounds. I relate to those songs, or I don't very often actually listen to lyrics. I am interested in the voice and how the voice sounds, and I'm now looking at whatever's going on behind me. I'm wondering, what's that big white thing? Whatever. Yes, to me the voice is another instrument, and the lyrics, sometimes I listen to them, but mostly I don't. It's all about how the voice sounds. It's another instrument. It's like a violin, but as a wind instrument. Figure that one out. Yeah, okay. I hope that answers your question. That's quite a long waffle. I'm looking at the next question. Yeah, okay. No more music questions for a while. People who are coming here for retro gaming have had music Q&A questions for the past couple of videos, so we'll be back onto gaming. Thank you for watching.
Right, hit the subscribe button or I'm getting naked on camera. Go on, do it. Right, you asked for it. Ah! You asked for it. Ha! Ha! Uh-oh.